turn things over to the superintendent for tonight's celebration of excellence.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to have an audience and nice to see some of you in person. We appreciate it. So our first celebration of excellence this evening is the Hobie Award. And it gives me great pleasure to announce Allison Hartzog as this year's Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership recipient. Congratulations. You want to come up here? We usually make people stand up here and Mrs. Buckley will take a picture. Thank you. I know it's odd. I'm sorry. Since 1958, the Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership Program, HOBie, has provided leadership development training to positively impact the lives of thousands of high school students in the U.S. and abroad annually. HOBie's program allows high school sophomores to realize their leadership talents and apply them in becoming effective, ethical leaders in their home, school, workplace, and community. Students attend a 3-day seminar and participate in hands-on leadership activities, meet their leaders in their state, and explore their own personal leadership skills while learning how to make a positive impact in their community. Teachers nominate a grade 10 student who exhibits the following traits and skills: outstanding communication, critical thinking, creative problem solving, strong decision making, sensitivity to others, charismatic personality, courage to speak out and challenge, as well as interest in community service. Allison received multiple teacher nominations. She challenges herself by taking a full and rigorous course schedule. In the classroom, she is not afraid to challenge historical injustices during class activities and discussions. She is not afraid to challenge herself and works very hard to do her best. She is an exceptional student and a great leader among her peers. She was nominated band president by all of the students in the band this year, which is usually held by a senior. Way to go. In band, she runs the warm-up, checks in with peers by providing mentorship and looking for ways to improve. Allison has a natural gift for meeting her peers where they are, and approaches the most challenging situations with both patience and poise. There will be probably almost no sporting events where you will not see Allison cheering in the stands and cheering on her friends and peers. She always looks to be involved and supportive of others. Allison will be representing Bolton at the HOBie Leadership Conference at Southern Connecticut State University in June. Allison, congratulations to you and to your family on this well-deserved honor. Well done. Very proud of you. Would you like to say anything?
I was not told to prepare anything, but thank you.
And you need to, so that's great. Good answer. All right. Moving on to our next award this evening. It is with great honor that we share this year's recipient of the Community Leadership Workshop Award, to Daniela LaPlante. Congratulations. Danielle, you want to come up here so we can take a snapshot of you, please, while I talk about you? Thank you. Mrs. Johnson, too. So. The Community Leadership Workshop, CLUE, is HOBie's free introductory 1-day leadership program for high school freshmen that is designed to help develop critical thinking skills by actively involving our young participants in experiential learning and critical dialogue. HOBie CLUE students participate in group activities, engage with local community leaders, and conduct community service projects. CLUEs are organized, developed, and implemented by local volunteers, HOBie partners, and HOBie alumni. As I shared, this is awarded to a 9th grader. Bolton High School asks faculty to nominate a student they feel possess the following traits or skills: outstanding leadership potential, strong communication skills, critical thinking, creative problem solving, strong decision making, sensitive to others, charismatic personality, as well as the courage to speak out and challenge. Daniela received multiple nominations for her leadership skills as well. In the classroom, she works hard and is a great collaborator with her peers. Her teachers share that she is respectful, gets her work done, and is very diligent in class. She has proven herself to be a leader among the class of 2027. Daniela is not afraid to stand up for what she wants, but will also be the voice for peers who may not be as outspoken. She looks out for her peers and her friends and is not afraid to stand up to support other students. This is an exceptional skill, especially as a ninth grader. Daniela is also very involved with extracurricular activities in and out of school. She's on the girls' soccer team this year, signed up for girls' basketball, and will continue to be involved in other extracurricular activities, so I'm told. On the soccer team, she stood out as a great teammate and is not afraid to be involved with everything going on, even though she's in ninth grade. She found her place amongst the team and worked hard throughout the season. Daniela is proving to be an all-around leader and will put good use to what she learns at CLU here at Bolton High School. Daniela, congratulations to you and your family. Well deserved. I know you weren't told to prepare anything, but would you like to say anything?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Congratulations. Okay, now moving on to Veterans Day. So this is something new this year that we've added because last year at our Veterans Day assembly, we have had in years past, previous to COVID, amazing young speakers at Veterans Day, and we would like to share a few of those with the board. So the first piece I would like to share is Lena Lane. Lena is a high honor student at BCS, an avid soccer player, midfielder for the BCS girls soccer team, and a member of the Vale East Premier Soccer team outside of school. She is also a member of the BCS chorus. In addition to her soccer exploits, she is actively involved in her church's youth group. Although she is unaware of any veterans in her own family, she understands the valuable contributions veterans have made to our nation, and simply stated she felt this speech was the right thing to do. Lena, would you come up and read your speech, please? Good job. Do me a favor, move up to the mic, okay, so everybody can hear you. Thank you.
Veterans Day is a day to celebrate all who served, all who gave their time to help us, people they don't even know. Some served because they were called into service by the country. Some may be served because their family served or they wanted to give back to the ones who died. They served in hope that it would make a better place for their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Veterans Day is also about those who lived to tell the tales. It's about the people we should thank more often and consider what they had to go through. The loss of great friends, not being able to see family, and not making fun, happy memories with the people they love. It's sad to think about all who suffered just to hope that this future life would be better. But thank you. And now people continue to work and serve to keep our country safe and secure. This life wouldn't be the same if you didn't serve and make that hope a real thing. It wouldn't be the same if you didn't take the risks and sometimes pay the consequences, but you still pushed forward. I think it is a better place here. Thank you for your service. Thank you for making my world and all of ours better.
Great job. Well done, Lena, well done. Next is 8th grader Abby Jankalunas, who is also a high honor student. She is a huge basketball fan, playing rec league basketball here in town and planning on trying out for the BCS girls basketball team next month. She is an avid reader, returning participant to the BCS book club, and a budding novelist, so I'm told, busy working on her first book, a murder mystery. She also plays clarinet in the BCS band. A returning speaker, Abby chose to write this year in honor of her great-grandfather who was a veteran. Abby, please come to the mic. Mr. Maselli, yep, thank you. Yep. Sorry.
What is Veterans Day? Well, in theory, it's a day to honor all men and women who've served in any of the armed forces. It's a day to say thank you for serving our country and protecting the citizens. It's a day to celebrate the lives of so many people. People remember and celebrate this day in different ways. Some people write patriotic songs to honor veterans. One patriotic song is our national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner. Francis Scott Key wrote those words as he watched the soldiers at Baltimore's Fort McHenry raise a huge American flag to celebrate a crucial victory over British forces during the War of 1812. The sight of those broad stripes and bright stars inspired Francis Scott Key. Many know the Star Spangled Banner is a quick one-verse song. We sing about the rocket's red glare, bombs bursting in air, and how our flag waves over the land of the free and the home of the brave. However, there are forgotten lyrics. How? The Star Spangled Banner was originally written as a poem with 4 verses. The last verse talks about the people who serve to make and keep our country free. Oh, thus be it ever when free men shall stand between their loved home and the war's desolation. Blessed with victory and peace may the heaven-rescued land praise the power that has made and preserved us a nation. And as the last verse ends, it is because of our country's veterans that the Star Spangled Banner in triumph shall wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave. So today we celebrate and honor all those who have stood for us. We thank you for your service.
Lena and Abby, I want to thank you very much. Tomorrow is a really important day, I think, to every American, and you both did a marvelous job highlighting why it is such an important day. And I look forward to hearing you both tomorrow. Great job. And to Daniela and Allison, congratulations to both of you. Look forward to watching your leadership flourish here at Bolton High School. Well done. And I want to thank you all for joining us. You are more than welcome to stay for our entire meeting, but if you would like to go, that's okay too. And then last, but if I could ask you to just stay for one more second. Sorry, I have one more bit of award presentation. I got ahead of myself. Sorry. Can't forget. Exactly. So we have one departing board member this evening, and that is Mr. Scott Rich. I'm going to try to do this without quivering in my voice. And I want to thank Scott for his 8 years of dedicated and tireless service to both the Bolton Board of Education and the Bolton Public Schools, and most importantly, our students. Scott has always brought a calm, measured, and wise approach to board discussions and deliberations, as well as provided, I can't even describe to you all, invaluable knowledge and expertise to a variety of building improvements in the Bolton Public Schools, the new tennis courts at Bolton High School, the need for improved fields at Bolton High School, and capital projects, which he has spearheaded all the way through. Scott has played an instrumental role in advancing the mission of the Bolton Public Schools, and he will be greatly missed. Scott, I want to present you with this small token of our appreciation. And again, I thank you for your dedicated service. Now you're all free to go if you'd like. Thanks for staying for that part, everybody. And that concludes our celebration of excellence. Thank you. Thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, I couldn't let it get away.
No, I know. I just want to let the board know, I had a procedure on my lower back at 1:30 this afternoon. I'm kind of in rough shape. So if I stand up, sorry, but I may have to. So I'm just going to put that out there. Thanks. At least I'm not in a wheelchair. That was a good news. Okay, let's keep going.
Oh, wow. Okay, on to comments from the audience. Is there anyone out there who would like to make a comment this evening? On forward, name and address for the record, please.
Okay. William Anderson, excuse me, 77 French Road. Give me rules. Time limit,
3
Yes.
minutes.
3 minutes?
Yeah.
Any dialogue, or you just sit there and listen?
Just sit here and listen.
Sit here and listen. Okay. All right, so the reason I'm here is the statewide problem we're having with buses. And getting the kids to school on time. I have a daughter in the school system, and she's telling me she's, late to class, quite frequently. So the state statutes are pretty clear. Board of Education, it's, under your responsibility to make provisions for transportation for children. So that's under your responsibility. The duties of the parents. I'm not real thrilled with this section. it starts out pretty clear and it says all parents and those who have the care of children shall bring them up, yada, 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 and get them to school on time. But the key phrase is care of children, and they go on to define that, whereas those who have the care of children equivalent to parents or guardians. But then throughout the rest of the document, they use the word 7 times. They say persons having control of such children. I need to clarify this, working with Steve Weir, the state representative in our district, and Tim Ackerman. So it appears that a bus driver would fall under the provisions of having control over a child. And if the statute can fine and penalize a parent $25 every time that they're truant, I would think that the statute would apply to a bus company and whack the bus company $25 per head when the bus shows up late. I have reached out to the person in charge of the Bolton bus yard, had some discussions with her, had some discussions with Mr. Gerard on getting some, guidance on where to start. I would hope that this commission would review the contract and see if there is a performance clause in the contract and or a penalty clause in the contract. The city of New Haven has one. And this is pre-COVID 2003. They had to pay penalties of $200,000, $500 for every missed run, and $150 for every late arrival. I also recommended maybe one of the Bolton guys, girls, whatever personnel at the highway division or the buildings and grounds, whatever you call the employees that maintain the town, to grab a license to drive a school bus and fill in as a temporary solution. But I guess there's some union issues that won't work, and that's a shame because one of the towns here, Madison, actually the first selectman went and got his bus license, and this year to help the town with busing, he did it himself, and that was the first selectman acting as a bus driver. I also printed this out. I'll leave this with you. This is the Office of Legislative Research, OLR, and it talks about what the federal government is doing across multiple states. Unfortunately, it's a very, very poor read. The suggestions are horrendous. So I'm here to help in any way I can. If you want me to work with our representatives and get some of the language changed in the statutes, if you think that will help. I guess my last comment is it falls under your responsibility. I certainly am not going to accuse anybody of not doing their job, but I went through your minutes over the past year and just perused them, and I didn't see any discussion on transportation. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But I think you should, because it falls under your responsibility. That's all I have. If you have any questions, I'll answer them, but if you don't do that, then I guess we don't do that.
Thank you very much. We'll look into adding that to a future agenda.
Okay, excellent. Would you like the pronouns I have?
Yeah, could you?
Yeah,
read them
please.
first?
State statutes, OLR report, New
Thank
Haven, and then the other town that had the first selectman. Thank you for your time.
Cool, thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to make a comment this evening? All right, moving on. Do we have any additions to the agenda?
I do not.
The routine business and the approval of minutes. Looking for motion, please, to approve the minutes of the October 12th, 2023 Board of Education business meeting. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any questions, comments, or edits on these minutes? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstaining?
I will abstain. Chris,
Chris is here. I didn't even know. Cool, thank you.
Yeah, we thought we were gonna see up there, but I think we're only. There we go.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, that passes, and on to Board of Education committee reports. Kappa.
So CAPA committee met on October 18th to discuss the existing capital plan for the Board of Education projects, kind of the status of where the projects are to date, and it's finalizing the fiscal year 25 list that's going to be presented to the Board of Selectmen. Yeah, assuming that's approved tonight. So you have a spreadsheet in front of you. The kind of updates where previous money is still being held in reserve for projects that were approved but have not yet been completed. So that's fiscal year 2022. The section that's for 26 are kind of identifying the potential bond projects that have been talked about for a number of years, keeping track of the costs and expected costs for those. The fiscal year 24 section is the work that's in progress this year. And kind of the comments in blue are kind of the status of where those projects are. And then on the backside is the list that we need to discuss or approve today. The fiscal year 25 lists 6 items. And their expected costs was just under $300,000 that we're going to be trading for the selection.
With the exception of the HVAC heat
yeah.
pump, because we don't know yet what that is. Yeah. Because we're waiting on the HVAC assessment, which will help determine that cost.
So any questions on the items on this list? Ballpark for that heat pump?
John doesn't, he doesn't have, we don't have one yet.
We were hoping to help.
Yeah, but we don't yet. So I mean, we certainly, maybe you guys, the board would consider approving this, and then once we have that number, I can come back and share that number with you. So you know, like what the final number is that will be going forward. Probably with the notion that these aren't all likely going to get approved anyway. Most likely that you,
That would be its first.
yes,
It would.
yeah, it would, for them all to be approved, yes, it certainly would.
I have a question about the heat pump and rooftop units. So
Where are you, Rhea? I'm,
on 2025.
The TBD guide.
yep, okay, yep.
So the assessment hasn't been done yet, I take it.
We're in the midst of having the assessment be done. That is now a new required law. And so we're doing one this year, and we're hoping to do the other one on Bolton Center School next year.
Oh, okay.
And those
so-
assessments then drive some other pieces. So the energy management system, maybe, is that something is that what you're?
I'm just wondering, because I remember at the board meeting, they were talking about the cost of the assessment, which was like between 17 and 32,000.
Correct.
Like that.
Correct.
So I was just wondering whether that was, where the assessment comes from. Is that-
And it's new state law. It's in,
No, I know that.
yeah.
But where does the money come from? I mean, where is it been budgeted? Is it in this document or is it somewhere else?
Well, that's different than the HVAC assessment.
no, that is what that is. The H,
Just
yeah.
Under item 4 for fiscal year 2024, we had $33,000.
It is, huh?
That was our quote, and
Right.
I guess
Right.
we'll know definitively, and I think the geothermal pump and some other things, they all play into that, so that's why the cost for here may be different than the cost of center school.
Right, okay. I was just, because. I
Wondering,
remember
yeah.
The discussion around that, so.
Correct, yeah, that was definitely an unfunded mandate that every district now has,
Okay.
Every 5 years
correct,
for each building.
correct.
So I'd say this list is pretty minimal and mostly things that need to be done,
Mhm,
safety and comfort.
correct.
The rest of the list is just projecting out for over the next few years where we think expenses may be subject to change.
So we're looking for a motion to approve our capital plan to bring forward to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Commission, I guess, is. I'm not sure we have clarity on who we're bringing it forward
Yeah.
to or when
We
exactly,
gotta bring it to somebody.
because of the charter change, but we do need to have,
General capital committee that includes the board of selectmen.
Yeah.
And I guess the board of finance, right?
I thought the capital committee was part of now the Finance Commission in some regard, but it was always the Board of Selectmen, which is not the Finance Commission, so.
It'll be clarified.
Yeah, so the three board
Yes,
meeting, there was a
somebody will
lot of
clarify
things
it,
that
yes.
said, oh, well, we've been talking to the town lawyer about that. And I suspect that this might be one of those. But we do need a capital plan to move forward to whoever and whenever that happens. So we're looking for a motion to approve our capital plan.
So we'll
Scott and Diane, do we have any more questions or comments on any of this? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining. Okay, we have a capital plan. Before we leave CAPA, I just want to thank Scott again for all this work. Yeah, I've been on CAPA for 8 years and he is the more valuable member and just got big shoes to fill, so we're gonna have to figure out what to do going forward, but for this year, we have a plan.
Yes.
Okay, on to finance.
Currently, we're 20% expended. And versus last year, 21% expended, and special education is an ever-changing landscape. So I'll turn it over to Superintendent Hecht now to go over the rest.
All right, so we have one October transfer, and that's a transfer from instructional supplies to online subscriptions and textbooks to cover Spanish 4 course text. So that's the only one. So
Looking for a motion to approve our one transfer.
I'll make a motion to approve that transfer.
second,
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments on this? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? There's more finance. Are we,
we're gonna come a little later on. That will be under my report,
okay,
if that's okay.
all right. On to policy.
Policy met a couple weeks ago to review the very, very long list of policies that we'll be talking about later on in the meeting.
Thank you. All right, DHS student representative reports.
Okay, on October 30th, 14 new members were inducted into the National Honor Society. Families observed a wonderful ceremony in the library. On October 31st, quarter 1 ended and all the grades were finalized yesterday. And on Monday, November 6th, the 8th graders visited the high school. Columbia students visited in the morning and Bolton Center students visited in the afternoon. And later in the evening, parents from BCS in Columbia visited from 6:30 to 8 p.m. where they met the staff and toured the school with current BHS students as tour guides.
On Thursday, November 2nd, the band and choir hosted their solo and small ensemble concert in front of a large crowd. Students formed their own small groups, picked their own music, and rehearsed on their own to prepare for the concert. Overall, the concert went excellently. The highlight of the night was Philip Skudarek and Gavin Tew's performance of Great Balls of Fire, which was by far the crowd favorite. If you want to see the concert for yourselves, there's a video available on the Bolton High School YouTube channel. Most fall sports have come to a close. The volleyball team finished with a record of 6-12. The girls soccer team with a record of 3-9-4. The boys cross country team placed second in the conference and for that states. All conference athletes included Davin Duffy and Shepard Livingston. Shepard was also awarded all states honors. The girls team placed third in the conference and did not participate in states. All conference athletes included Anna Carini and Dahlia Livingston. Dahlia was also awarded all states honors. The boys soccer team had a conference record of 10-3-3. Their first tournament game took place on November 7th, which they won. They advanced to the second round and played their game earlier today, November 9th, which they also won. As such, they will play Saturday, November 11th in the quarterfinals, which they are also expected to win. In the month of November, the student council is participating in multiple community service events throughout the month. Students will have been and will continue raking leaves at the homes of community members. On Monday, November 13th, students will be collecting canned food donations to be delivered to the Bolton Food Pantry.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much. I know you have stuff, so thank you. Good night.
All right, thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. And happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
All right.
All right, community meeting reports.
I have one.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't hear you. So I've attended the last few Bolton Scholarship Fund meetings. We have begun preparing for next year's fundraising and awarding of scholarships. At our annual meeting in October, the board approved a budget for the new fiscal year, which for us starts on October 1st. We discussed goals for the coming year and re-elected 5 current directors to new 2-year terms. The board also re-elected Trish Brudds as Bolton Scholarship Fund president and re-elected me as secretary for additional 2-year terms. The board is looking to add some new directors to help us run the organization. So if anyone is interested in learning more about that, please reach out to Trish Brudds or to me.
Question.
Thank you, Chris. Is there anyone else? I guess I can say that we had a free board meeting. Which several of us attended, and what did we discuss? The bonding money frees up in 3 years, which I think will allow us to potentially move forward with the roof project. What else was of note to us? There was some discussion on how we will select the finance commission, although there's still some uncertainty there, as I mentioned a minute ago. Discuss soccer fields, just to keep it on everyone's radar. Discuss the soccer fields that they're building at Herrick Park. And discuss that we should have a grant writer to try and win more money for these things. Oh, anyone else? Is there other? I can't remember. That's about it. Is there any other public meetings? We do correct or anything? Yeah, okay. Now I'll turn things over to the superintendent for the superintendent school report.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna start with Mr. Giard for an update from Bolton Center School, please.
I do not have COVID, just a bad cold. So for BCS update, BCS has been very busy the last month. The big event in October was the BCS walkathon on October 17th. The PTA, as we all know, and I say it almost every month, is amazing and did an amazing job of planning starting last spring through the summer up until the walk. As a school, we raised over $23,000.
Wow,
which
that's
is
amazing.
our biggest
Awesome.
fundraiser, and it truly is amazing. As a school, we are also back to doing some field trips. Kindergarten during October went to Foster Farm. Grade 4 went to the Coast Guard Academy, and middle school students recently went to the Aerospace and Manufacturing Fair at the Convention Center, which we've done now for a few years, which was a really cool field trip. On October 25th, our 8th grade students took the PSATs, and our pre-K through 3 students attended the annual fire prevention assembly. I want to take a moment to thank the Bolton Fire Department. They bring the trucks out, they could shoot water, they brought the dog. It was an amazing morning. The weather was perfect, and the kids had a great experience. And then, as we heard earlier, tomorrow is one of my favorite and the school's favorite events of the year, our annual Veterans Day Assembly at 9:30 a.m. So feel free to come and join us. We have approximately 60 Bolton veterans who have RSVP'd for tomorrow, so we have a very good turnout. And we're excited to welcome them all tomorrow, and the staff and students are excited for tomorrow's event.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Daryl?
Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Mr. Maselli's up for Bolton High School.
Good evening. I want to do some thank yous here at the front end, really to the ninth grade team. As Aaron mentioned, they ran 3 separate events the other day in terms of getting those 8th graders an opportunity to see the high school. And I will be traveling with some of the guidance staff at the end of the month to do our annual presentation at Forest Porter. Some continued thanks, John, Dave, Malin, Art, Matt, and Jeff. Our building is starting to get old, 14 years old, but it's in some ways it's really not showing it. The vendors that come through are absolutely amazed with the condition. And at the same time, they are also on top of some things. We just completed some major light repairs in the parking lot, and we talked with Kappa, a big upgrade to the public address system. 20-year-old technology was just changed out without any issues the other day. Guidance is in college mode, meeting with all the seniors to make sure that they get the assistance they need with applications, teachers writing recommendations. We had I'm gonna call it a ceremony, a little get together with 15 of our seniors. We brought them in and using the new guidelines, which were slightly different than last year's direct admit or automatic admission program. Last year was the first year for that. A little different regulations, but we brought those 15 students in and announced that they had gotten into 8 colleges without even applying. So that's kind of exciting for some of our seniors. And then that was followed up a couple days later by Mr. Gensanti bouncing space to space meeting with kids for free application day, making sure that any student who wanted to apply to a state school on the day that it's free. I think he started before 7 a.m. and was still here at 4 with kids to make sure that happened, walking through that, which was great. And I just had a meeting, a roundtable with our 4 parent community groups, the 4 groups that do things to sponsor us. Mr. Davies was talking about, for example, Bolton Scholarship Fund. We also have Project Graduation, Bolton Music Works, and the Athletic Boosters. And we just had a great conversation talking about what each of the organizations do, how perhaps we can get more parents involved. That's a plug for anybody watching this on YouTube. We need you. And to try to find a way to coordinate their activities. And some of the takeaways that we'll be working on will be a calendar, a strategy calendar. So every member of the groups can see what the other groups are doing, so there's no overlap. And also some kind of like a 1-page advertisement that we can hand out at school events, sharing information about all 4 of those groups to try to increase support for them and the great work they do for Bolton High School kids.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Maselli? All right, hearing none, I'm going to move on to grants. So on the longer spreadsheets that you have, I believe, right? The first part of it are all of the grants that we bring in with the grant name, the objectives, and the qualifiers. Most of that is not new information to you. The one thing that I do want to call to your attention are numbers 13, 14, and 15. Those were new last year. The paraeducator professional development grant, the CT SEDS expert training stipend, and that happened in 2 pieces. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. So if you go on to the unaudited expenses for FY 22-23, you will see there how we spent the monies in each category under each grant, with open choice being, the largest grant that we receive, and the various positions that are in the various grants there. And then those numbers 13, 14, and 15 that I spoke of, the special education, paraeducator, professional development, although it was small, $2,025. We did use it for PD for paraprofessionals to support academic and social emotional needs of students with disabilities. And the CT SEDS expert training stipends, I believe that those are going to be one time only. I believe that the state used coronavirus monies to help the State Department of Ed put forward those grants there. But in the next section, where I think it's in light blue at the top, those are our projected uses for our grants for this year. And, you'll see the various kind of buckets of where we're projecting to use the money and what positions are in each. I do want to, call to your attention that we are going to be receiving $10,000 per student for choice, as opposed to the 8,000 that we used to receive. So that's good news. And, we will be using that for, positions as well as, district needs and technology. And then, we have an open choice increasing attendance rate grant, although it's a small amount. We will be using that, grant to, for math and reading activities for families, book clubs, after-school literacy activities, PD for achieving equity in and access to advanced placement courses, and providing take-home books and activities to facilitate home-to-school connection. And then moving on with grants, you will see in the section titled Coronavirus Relief Grants, the use of the funds from the grants all align to the Bolton Public Schools strategic plan, both goals 1 and 2. So we have an ARP ESSER Small Town Right to Read grant that just recently became open for $73,000. This was in response to a lot of advocacy on my part and the other of small district superintendents with the fact that the new legislation went into effect about requirements for K-3 reading. And the cost of one of these required programs was far greater than any of our budgets could address. So hence, I think this grant, as well as the next one, which is the ARPA Right to Read grant for $25,000. We will be using those monies to provide additional print materials, professional development, assessment resources for teachers as they support literacy for our students in grades K-5, as well as classroom library books, and the partial cost of the digital learning platform EL Imagine Learning, which we are piloting this year. The next set of grants are grants specifically for special education that are also coronavirus monies that came to the state that the state has now pushed out to districts in the form of grants. The first was ARP IDEA funds for $32,270. And the second was for $3,063. We have expended these monies, and we used it for Chromebooks, desktops, and iPad, certified orientation and mobility specialists, professional development, and supplies all around special education. Then the next one is ESSER 2 special education recovery activities for a total of $57,600. We have also expended those monies. They're in a few different buckets. We used it for evaluation and training services, for supplies, as well as for a BCBA portion of the BCBA's salary, and for tutoring. And all of those amounts total the $57,600 under the ESSER 2. Beyond that, those grants beyond that were also coronavirus relief monies that we have gone over in years past, but I've left it all there so that you all have it, so everybody knows exactly how over time we have spent these monies. Any questions for me?
I have a question.
Yes.
I saw that a couple of them said that they're not fully expended. Do we still have access to that money? Can we still spend it?
We
or is
don't,
that-
and it's minimal amounts of money.
Gotcha.
We're talking, let's see.
If we don't use it, it's just done.
Correct, correct. I mean, I think one of them was like 40-something dollars or something. Because they were very specific, right? And we couldn't say, oh, we'd like to buy this now.
Yeah.
They wouldn't allow for it because of how the parameters that were put on the grant. So we did our very best to spend every penny.
Good.
Any other questions? All right, that concludes my report this evening. Thank you.
All right, unfinished business. We don't have any of that. So on to new business and the resignations.
We have two this evening, one from BCS reading paraprofessional Lisa Jordan, and one from BHS paraprofessional Joan Day, and I wish them well in their new endeavors.
2024-2025 school calendar.
So you have before you the draft of the school calendar. I have reviewed this both with the administrators and the BEA. And this is the proposed calendar that we bring forward for adoption for next year.
Any changes worth highlighting?
No, not really. To be honest with you, it's pretty much standard boilerplate. The only thing I will say is winter vacation in December is a little longer next year. We don't come back till Thursday.
That's tough how the holidays lie there. So.
Yeah.
Looking for a motion to approve the draft of the calendar, or the calendar, I should say, for the 2024-2025 school year.
So.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
I
Opposed, abstaining. On to 2024-2025 BOE meeting schedule.
So before you is the recommended meeting schedule. It's pretty much in keeping with our traditional meeting schedule moving forward. And just looking for approval. And the reason why we do this so early is because we have to. It has to be handed in by December 1st.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for the calendar.
Thank you.
Second.
Any questions or comments? My first Thursday, February 6th, is that because of vacation? I'll have to reference my last.
Well, it's because of when the long holiday falls in between the 6th and the
Oh,
20th,
yeah,
and because we have the two meetings about budget. So I put it on the first Thursday so that we would get two meetings in on the budget.
Cool. Looking forward to it. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
I
Opposed? Abstaining? That passes as well. All right. I lost my, oh, here we go. On to policies. All right. Whoever's got a taking a drink of water and deep breath.
I'm happy to go through all 49 of them if you like. I'll try to do it as quickly as possible. I do think it's probably a good idea to at least know what we're going to be voting on. I guess it is just for a first read, but and just to say, I apologize for not being there in person. I had intended to be and went out to my truck to drive over and had a dead battery, and none of the other vehicles were at home. So here I am stuck online. So
We know it works, and we know that now, so that's great. I'm sorry, you have a dead battery, but this is great.
Yeah. All right. So jumping right in with policy 4115, athletic coaches. This is one of the few new policies in this batch. And it's to address, my note says evolution, which I don't think is correct. Evaluation, thank you. Evaluation, termination, and non-renewal of our athletic coaches. Policy 4118.51, use of social media. This just has some minor copy editing and technical updates. For example, updated legal references that do not affect the substance of the policy. 5136, Pledge of Allegiance. This is a new policy to replace 6115.1 daily observations or daily observances. The new policy establishes that a period of time will be set aside each school day to allow students who wish to do so to recite the pledge. The policy also notes that recitation of the pledge is not a requirement. Policy 5141.7. This is a policy that is being deleted and replaced by policy 4116. So basically, we're swapping it out for Shipman's model policy on administrative regulations for athletic coaches. Shipman just recommended that it be with the rest of our personnel related policies. 6111 school calendar. We're simply revising it so that it comports with current state law. Policy 6114 is to be deleted, covers emergencies and disaster preparedness. The reason for the deletion is that it is already covered by policy 1420, school security and safety. 6114.1, fire emergency drills, also to be deleted again because it is, well, actually in this case is covered, no, it's covered by the same policy 1420, which is our overall school security and safety policy. And Shipman notes that a policy that specifically addresses emergency drills is not necessary. Policy 6115, ceremonies and observances, also being recommended for deletion. The policy is not required and as currently constituted is not in compliance with current law and constitutional requirements. Policy 6115.1, daily observances, also to be deleted. It will be replaced by policy 5136, Pledge of Allegiance, which I discussed earlier. Policy 6121, non-discrimination. This policy or stuff that's in this policy is already covered by existing policies 4118 and 5145.4, which are already up to date with current federal civil rights law. So they didn't need to be updated. Policy 6141, Curriculum Committee, recommended for deletion. And this policy is not required. Formation of committees is already covered under the board's bylaws, specifically policy 9130 committees, which also provides for the board to specify the duties of committees. That is, a separate policy explaining the curriculum committee's duties is not required. Policy 6141.312, migrant students, recommended for deletion because it is not required. Policy 6141.323, access to electronic networks, recommended for deletion because it is already covered by 3 other policies, one for personnel, 4118.4, one for, and then 2 for students, 5134, use of district computer systems, and 5135, use of private technology devices by students. Policy 6141.326, online social networking, also recommended for deletion because it is already covered under policies 4118.4, personnel, employee use of district computers, 4118.51, use of social media, 5134, use of district computer systems, and 5135, use of private technology devices by students. Policy 6142.1, family life and sex education, also recommended for deletion because it is already covered by policy 6144.1, curricular exemptions. Policy 6142.52, democracy in education, recommended for deletion because it is not required and is outdated. Policy 6144, controversial issues, recommended for deletion because it is already covered by existing policy 6144.1, curricular exemptions, and a new policy 6210, parental access to instructional material, which I will get to later. Policy 6144.4, reacting to political action, recommended for deletion because it is not required and per the board's attorney is outdated. Policy 6145, extra class activities, limited open forum, recommended for deletion because it's not required. Policy 6145.2, interscholastic competition, intramural athletics, recommended for deletion because it is already covered by 5141.6 chemical health policy for student athletes, 5141.7 concussion and head injuries, which will be renumbered as policy 4116 student sports concussion, and a new policy 4115 athletic coaches evaluation and termination, which I mentioned earlier. Together, these three other policies cover interscholastic and intramural athletics, coaching, and student athletes. Policy 6145.3, publications, recommended for deletion because it is not required. If the board wishes to retain this policy, Shipman will need to do a thorough review of it for potential First Amendment issues. That was their comment that they sent along when they recommended that we delete it. Policy 6145.5, organizations and associations, recommended for deletion because it is not required. Same for policy 6145.51, National Honor Society. Also the same for 6145.52, extracurricular and co-curricular activities. 6145.6, travel and exchange programs. A few technical and copy editing edits are being made, but there are no substantive changes to the policy. 6145.8, activities fund management, recommended for deletion because it is covered by policy 3453, activity funds management. Policy 6146.11, grade weighting class ranking, recommended for deletion because it is covered by policy 6146.1, weighted grading and calculation of grade point averages. 6153, field trips. We are updating this policy with Shipman's model policy. There are, however, no substantive changes, just replacing old policy with more model language. 6154, homework, recommended for replacement with a much shorter and simpler Shipman model policy. It doesn't attempt to micromanage the individual school homework requirements beyond stating that homework should relate to curricular goals and be grade appropriate. Policy 6154.1, tests and student work, recommended for deletion because it's not required. 6156.5, instructional planning and schedules, recommended for deletion because it's not required, as is 6161.3, comparability of services. 6162, instructional resources for teachers. This policy sets basic standards for textbooks and instructional materials. Specifically, they should support the curriculum, stimulate growth in knowledge, literary appreciation, aesthetic values, and ethical standards, provide background information so students can make intelligent judgments, presenting opposing sides of controversial issues, accurately and without bias depict the diversity of American society and the contributions made to American heritage by the country's various religious, ethnic, and cultural groups. This is probably the policy with the most substantive change, although I don't think it is really a practical change. I think our curriculum already does all of these things, but just codifying it in the policy. 6162.51, surveys of students, recommended for deletion because it is already covered by policy 5126, student privacy. 6162.7, educational software, recommended for deletion because it duplicates material that is more comprehensively addressed in policies 4118.4, personnel, employee use of district computers, and 5134, students' use of district computer systems. 6163.3, live animals in the classroom, recommended for deletion because it is not required. 6146.11, health services, drugs, tobacco, and alcohol, recommended for deletion because it is not required. 6164.12, health services, AIDS, recommended for deletion because it is already covered by policy 6144.1, curricular exemptions. 6171, Special Education with Disabilities Act, Alternative Assessments for Students with Disabilities for statewide and district-wide assessments. This is recommended to be replaced with the shorter Shipman model policy, which commits the board to fully comply with state and federal laws covering the special education of students with disabilities. Policy 6171.2, Special Education, Preschool Special Education, recommended for deletion as it is not required after the update to Policy 6171, Special Education. 6172.12, Magnet Schools, recommended for deletion because it is not required. The same for 6172.3, Homeschooling. 6172.4, Title I Parent Involvement, recommended to be replaced by Shipman's Model Policy, Parent and Family Engagement Policy for Title I students. No substantive changes to the actual policy, though. 6172.41, Title I Programs, recommended for deletion because the policy is outdated and now covered by the revised policy 6172.4, Parent and Family Engagement Policy for Title I students. 6172.6, Virtual Online Courses, recommended to be revised to address legal updates and eliminate COVID-specific language. Policy 6173, Homebound Instruction, recommended for deletion because it is no longer needed. We already use the model state notification form, and policy 5131, Student Discipline, covers the education of expelled students. Policy 6180, Evaluation of Instructional Program, recommended for deletion because it is not required. The non-discrimination portions of the policy are already addressed in the 1000, 4000, and 5000 series. 4000 series is personnel, 5000 is students. 6181, Evaluation of Special Education Program, recommended for deletion because it is not required and, as currently written, does not comply with the current special education law and laws on the confidentiality of student records. And then lastly, 6210, Parental Access to Instructional Materials. This is a new policy guaranteeing parents the right to inspect, upon request, any textbook or other instructional material used in their child's education. Does anyone have any questions about any of the policies that are being deleted or any of the new ones?
I'll just offer great job.
Yes. Number 21 that you read, 6145.3, is there any reason we would want to keep it?
I actually brought that one up, Ben, during our policy committee meeting, because that caught my eye as well. That's the one on student publications, Kristen. So I don't know if
Yes.
you want to talk about that.
Trying to find it. Okay, so, we already do student publications, right? And we use all of the parameters of the law to allow for what kids can do within student publications. So there are some First Amendment issues with how this policy is and would require a real comprehensive redo, if you will. And I think there was also some concern that in having a policy, as laws change and things happen, we're always chasing it and out of compliance as opposed to just following good practice.
Fair enough.
Did that pretty much codify what we discussed, Chris?
Yes, yep.
Sue? Yep.
So these policies are being presented for a first read. Traditionally, the board will take a month to mull them over, and then we would vote on them at our December meeting. However, I mean, if the board feels comfortable, we could certainly vote on them all tonight. That might make Kristen's life a little easier getting them in place. sooner rather than later, but it's really up to the board.
Thank you for that plug.
I personally would be in favor of waiting a month, especially because there's so many of them, and now we have a better understanding of what we are doing and why.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Future business. Don't have any.
Well, maybe transportation and buses.
Yeah, well, that's certainly worth looking into, so we can at least do our due diligence. Consider that.
We could have dug into a little bit more of like what was the ask there. Like, obviously, he wants the buses to be on time for every student every day, but there's obviously some outlying issues with like. There's open positions, we're combining routes, if somebody calls out, there's obviously things that can happen, but. What's the ask exactly?
Oh, we should have asked him that.
Yeah.
I can reach out and try to get some more information, and maybe we can scan this and disseminate it amongst ourselves. I can do that, actually, if anybody wants it work, or,
We'll do it.
okay,
Christine will do it and I'll send it out tomorrow.
okay,
Well, we'll send it out early next week.
no, yeah,
We got stuff.
the
going
right,
on.
right, edit.
Yeah, with Veterans Day tomorrow and some other things, so.
Cool. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
I have a question. When a parent comes up and they have, or whoever has the concern, what's the real protocol? So they have 3 minutes, which really sounded like 10. And then how much time do we have to respond? Like,
Oh,
is
I'm
that-
closer to 4. I find it.
That's awesome. It felt like forever. Regardless, I thought 3 minutes was like small, but obviously you have to put a time in there. But then what's the protocol? Do you guys just say, thank you, we'll add it to the agenda? Is there any back and forth usually? I've never done it in person, so I'm just wondering.
So there's no back and forth per bylaw 9325, which, hang on, I'm silly. Go ahead.
Comments will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per individual. Per bylaw
So when it says you
9325.
have questions, even if you have questions, you just shut your mouth and just can't ask a question?
It's not supposed to be, I know it seems odd, but it's not supposed to be a back and forth. The person's supposed to come, speak their piece, and the board can or cannot take it up at another time.
Right, but he brought up a good point, like, well, what's the ask? So we
Right.
can't, I'm just asking, like, could we ask that question?
I have to read the bylaw,
I
honestly,
mean,
to see
You're
what
not,
we,
it's not
it's not been
supposed,
our practice.
yeah, it's not supposed to be a back and forth, because and I think this this shipment policy grew out of in other districts where, and Sue may be able to speak to this as well, and I certainly know that others of us in here that have been in other districts, where it becomes a shouting match between board members and members of the public. So people come with their commentary, they're allowed their time to speak. It's not a back and forth dialogue, but to Andrew's point, like, the board chair can reach out if the board, so,
I mean, you ultimately will be working on the next agendas and
correct,
the option of adding that to an agenda for future discussion.
correct.
Yeah, and people are always free to reach out to myself or any one of us or the administration and
Mhm.
have a dialogue at that time.
Well, I just think it's silly that, I get the back and forth, and that's up to Andrew to shut it down when he sees that he gets to that point. But to not be able to ask a clarifying question, like, so what's your ask? I think that's silly. So I was just wondering if you could look into the bylaws a little bit, if it's allowed to just ask a clarifying question. I don't think there's any harm in back and forth crazy discussion. I was just wondering about that.
And we don't need to be sticklers about things, especially
Right.
when we have more questions or are more concerned about whatever issue is being raised, so can certainly look into that.
Great, thank you.
I noticed from something, I don't even remember where, I was just trying to think that public comment in some other districts is limited only to agenda items, which I'm certainly not in favor of, because that to me is restricting public concerns or free speech,
Right.
as on they would say, how would they get on the agenda? And people get shut down because, oh, you're not speaking on an agenda item, which I don't like that. We don't do that. I'm glad, but it's certainly something that works. worth looking into.
Awesome.
And I think that like, if anybody had a question, it's not like I would say, well, you can ask. But
And I guess if somebody reaches out to any of us, we could add it to future business if it's something that needed to be discussed.
I just
Yeah.
never had it before in person, it was my first time, so. If I have a question, I wanna know like what are those, now I know, they're like, oh. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
So we got a motion by Ben to adjourn.
Oh, yeah, we did have. a motion. Do we
Does
have a
Scott
second?
wanna?
I'll check.
Okay.
The last one.
Questions, comments, concerns? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed or abstaining? Thank you all for coming this evening.